All right, what is going on, Chiefs Kingdom? Welcome back to the KC Sports Report. I'm your host, Michael Darcy, as always, and today I have the pleasure to be joined by my friend Josh Fan of ShowMeFootball.com. And together we're going to break down the Kansas City Chiefs' wild overtime victory against the Buffalo Bills in the AFC Divisional round. So, ladies and gentlemen, last night we witnessed one of the greatest playoff games of all time. The Kansas City Chiefs somehow found a way to win this game with just 13 seconds left on the clock. Patrick Mahomes drove this team down in 2 plays to get into field goal range, and Harrison Butker kicked a 49-yarder, and the Chiefs sent this game to overtime. They won the coin toss, and the rest is history. But Josh, it almost took us 24 hours to just let this game sink in. And so what are your initial reactions a day later, and how are you doing today?
Well, I'm doing really good and hope you are as well. And why am I doing good? Because the Kansas City Chiefs won last night. But, so every time there's a really good Chiefs game or a really bad Chiefs game, I wake up the next day with whatever the Chiefs did, fresh on my mind. It's the first thing I think about. And I either have a sinking feeling because I'm now in a state of realization that, man, the Chiefs just lost and their season is looking bleak, or it's over, or I'm thinking, man, that was a good Chiefs game yesterday. And today was the latter. I just woke up feeling blessed that this is the team we get to watch, and we're moving on to the AFC Championship game with a chance to go to the Super Bowl once again.
It's so extremely special, and the fact that the Chiefs are hosting this AFC Championship game at home for not the first year, not the second year, not the third year. This is the 4th consecutive year this game has been hosted at Arrowhead Stadium. Like, the fact that you were doing this, it's something that we've never seen before. And the fact that our hometown team, the Kansas City Chiefs, are the ones to do it, it just makes us feel incredibly blessed. And like I said, the Chiefs had no business winning that game. It was 36-33 with 13 seconds left in this game. And we're going to talk about the 13 seconds and why that is so important, because I would argue that 13 seconds is the new down 24. Like, this is how big that moment was. And regardless of the stage and what was going on going up against the Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes yet again in every single big-time moment shows up and he shines on the biggest stage, and he did it in one of the most improbable ways I have ever seen. In 13 seconds, he only needed 2 plays to go 60 yards downfield to give Harrison Butker a 49-yard field goal attempt to tie this game. This is after the Buffalo Bills scored a go-ahead touchdown with like a minute left. Maybe it was 49 seconds. And I really am having a hard time believing that the Chiefs stole this game from the Buffalo Bills, practically coming back to life. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, first of all, I'll add a historical note along with the fact that the Chiefs are about to host their 4th straight AFC Championship game. That's the first time in NFL history a team has hosted 4 straight. Like, not even the Patriots dynasty can say they did what the Chiefs are about to do. The Chiefs had hosted 3 straight AFC Championship games, obviously, before this year. And when they did that, they were the second team to host 3 straight conference championship games. The only other team to do it was Andy Reid's Philadelphia Eagles. So I think this also goes to show how great of a coach Andy Reid is, and we do have to be reminded at times of just how great he is.
And go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to, really quickly, I was going to say, because a lot of people seem to think that Andy Reid got out-coached last night, but I would say that he really shined in the biggest of big moments. And this is a quote that I want to read because, honestly, it's one of the most legendary things I have ever heard. When the Chiefs were down 36-33 and they were going to go on that offensive drive, Andy Reid pulled Patrick Mahomes aside and said, "When it's grim, be the Grim Reaper." That is the most coldest legendary quote I have ever heard. And I kind of like the Grim Reaper as a new nickname for Patrick Mahomes. And that's exactly what he did last night, because he took the Buffalo Bills' soul. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, it's amazing. I do like the Grim Reaper nickname. I know a lot of people have like Showtime, or there's another one that I'm forgetting. But Grim Reaper, that, like, sometimes nicknames have to come naturally, and I think that one came naturally, and it has to be the one moving forward. And if I'm being quite honest, I do think Reid got out-coached a little bit down the stretch, but it didn't matter. Because I think if the Chiefs lost that game, one of the number one things we're talking about is that play call on 3rd and 1 in the red zone with Blake Bell and Jerick McKinnon, and how that was the turning point. But also, it wouldn't have been the only thing. Like, there would also been Steve Spagnuolo in the defense and Harrison Butker. So it's not one person's fault if they were to lose the game. But luckily, we don't have to talk about any of that stuff because the Chiefs won this game. And like you said, it was just so significant because they won it in essentially 13 seconds. I mean, like I said to you last night on our live show, there's a lot of moments with Patrick Mahomes where I'm like, you know what? He can't overcome this. Like, this is too much. The Chiefs screwed up. It's over. And then he'll find ways to amaze me. But I truly thought last night when there was 13 seconds left on that clock and the Bills took a 3-point lead, I was like, it's over. Like, come on. Like, 13 seconds is just it's too much to overcome. And yet again, I'm proven wrong. Patrick Mahomes moves the ball 50 yards in 10 seconds and sets up Harrison Butker for a 48-yard attempt. And I just, wow. That's all I can say.
It's just greatness. Like, at the end of the day, everyone's like, oh, Sean McDermott shouldn't have punted it deep. But when you really think about it realistically, if they tried to just pooch the punt and it was a play in which he could have kicked it out of bounds and the Chiefs would have got it in great field position, or maybe the Chiefs would have had somebody return it. So you really don't know how that was going to play out. And I think Sean McDermott's mindset was, we are going to make Patrick Mahomes and that offense beat the best scoring defense in the league. There was 13 seconds left, and honestly, I kind of thought that everyone in Buffalo believed that game was over. I think the coaching staff did. I think Josh Allen did. I think the offense and the defense all believed this game was over. And honestly, one of the most legendary things I've ever seen was when the Chiefs did get down 36-33. They panned over to Patrick Mahomes on the sideline, and he's throwing the ball just as calmly as if there was 13 minutes left in this game. And that, to me, is just so unbelievable that you have a guy with ice water in his veins, and no matter what the circumstance is, no matter where you are in the game, no matter how much you're down, no matter what the obstacle is, you have a guy that can overcome it. And that's something that we have never seen before. Because honestly, I think you could put any other quarterback in that situation. They will not complete what Patrick Mahomes did. No quarterback in the National Football League with 13 seconds left in a game can go 60 yards downfield in 2 plays. That's unheard of. It's not even possible. And yet the Chiefs with Patrick Mahomes did it. And it's just, it's surreal. Like, I really can't believe what we just saw.
Yeah, I think your point about how the camera panned over to Mahomes on the sideline after that play, that's actually what I was going to mention. They showed him on the sideline. He had that look in his face like, they actually think it's over. Like, I'm not going to let it end like this. You really think I'm going to let it end like that? And he went out there, and the Bills never got the ball back. And I think that's actually a perfect segue into something else you wanted to talk about, which is the overtime rules. But, you know, Patrick Mahomes, once he drove the Chiefs down the field to get that Harrison Butker field goal attempt, I think everyone felt pretty great that the Chiefs were going to win this one.
Oh, yeah. There was no doubt in my mind that once Patrick Mahomes and the offense got into field goal range with 13 freaking seconds left in this game, and when Harrison Butker, who had a pretty rocky night, he left 4 points up on the board, but he hit the game-tying field goal, and he arguably won the biggest possession of the game, and that was by winning the coin toss. And when the Chiefs had the ball, there was no doubt in my mind that Patrick Mahomes and some of the best offensive pieces we have ever seen in Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill were going to score. There was no doubt in my mind, and that's exactly what we saw.
Absolutely. And, you know, Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen, it was a great duel last night, and they both played great. And, yeah, Mahomes just outplayed him. He was just better. It was an instant classic Mahomes game. And yet this morning when I woke up and I was looking at social media and some of the morning talk shows had already gone through their segments, I still saw disrespect for Patrick Mahomes.
It's so sad.
Even saying that Josh Allen was the better quarterback and the better team to not win this game, and the disrespect is still rampant everywhere. It's really insane. And looking back, actually, and reflecting on the game, Mahomes' performance is so much more impressive than Josh Allen's because he did it against what was the number one scoring defense coming into the game. And, Michael, me and you said that in that first Bills matchup in Week 5, one of the biggest reasons the Bills won that game is because they were able to get cheap touchdowns off the poor Chiefs secondary. And if I'm being completely honest, that was kind of the case last night. Josh Allen was throwing to wide open receivers.
Yeah, like Mike Hughes falling down on that play where they scored a touchdown.
Yeah.
You had Travarius Ward run in. No, it was L'Jarius Sneed who ran into Mike Hughes. They both fell over, and that resulted in a touchdown. And I'm not trying to take away what Gabriel Davis did because he had 4 touchdowns and over 200 yards receiving. But I think when you look at the weapons in this game that we're going to have a big game, you shut down Stephon Diggs, the same guy that stood on the sideline and watched the Chiefs celebrate in the AFC Championship game last year, had like 3 catches for 7 yards. That was his revenge game. And it was because Travarius Ward did an unbelievable job against him all night long. And honestly, I think the disrespect that this Chiefs team is getting is unfair. Like Marcellus Wiley, how can you even say that the Buffalo Bills played a better game than the Kansas City Chiefs?
I was thinking about name dropping him, but I wasn't sure.
I don't give a crap. I'll name drop anyone because at the end of the day, like, we need to call people out when they're being utterly stupid. Like, how can you not point this out when Patrick Mahomes went 60 yards with 13 seconds left and tied this game? Everyone thought this game was over, and yet the Chiefs stole this victory from the Buffalo Bills. And I think there's a lot of people in the media and a lot of people in Buffalo that still can't wrap their minds around what just happened, because it was honestly one of, if not the greatest playoff comebacks we have ever seen. Point blank, period. There was nothing more impressive than what we saw last night from Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, and real quick, not just to plug my Twitter, but on my Twitter at ShowMeFB, I actually put together an entire collage of every anti-Mahomes take Marcellus Wiley has ever had. And it's a long list of him saying just about every quarterback is better than Patrick Mahomes. And even after this game, he said that the best team did not win last night, and he still is saying that he would take Josh Allen over Patrick Mahomes. And it's just pure insanity.
And here's the thing. Patrick Mahomes had more rushing yards on fewer attempts. He had more passing yards. I think they had the same amount of touchdowns. Mahomes ran one in himself. Which, by the way, full-out effort. Patrick Mahomes dived at the pylon, got that touchdown. We don't talk about it enough, but the fact that he was able to just be unbelievable on the ground last night, it really opened things up for the Chiefs offensively, because I think that, Buffalo did a really good job, at least their secondary did, of kind of containing Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill in the beginning. But Mahomes scrambling, it just opened everything up, and we really saw how quick and deceptive he is. And honestly, I think that's a big reason why you won this game. But getting back to Marcellus Wiley, I mean, the dude has got to be saying stuff for clicks. It just doesn't make sense. And I think Josh Allen had a great game last night. But I pointed this out on Twitter. I pointed this out on Instagram. Josh Allen was great. Patrick Mahomes was an all-time great last night. I mean, no one else could do what he did with 13 seconds left in this game. And that sole reason alone is why the Kansas City Chiefs were the better team last night. That's what it is.
Yeah, and I know we were about to talk about it earlier, and then we branched off into a different topic, but I think now is the perfect time to bring up those overtime rules, because I saw a lot of Bills fans complaining about the fact that Josh Allen didn't get to touch the ball in overtime. And I'm sorry, but, the Chiefs were in this exact same situation in Mahomes' first year starting in the AFC Championship game against Tom Brady. And Mahomes, he had a similar drive setting up the Chiefs to get a field goal to send it to overtime. And he never got the ball, and the Patriots ended up winning that game. And after that AFC Championship game in 2018, the Chiefs went to the league and said, hey, we want to change the overtime rules. And every other team and every other team's fan base laughed in their face and said they're just sore losers. So I'm sorry, cry me a river.
And guess what? The Buffalo Bills management voted to not change the rules. So at the end of the day, it's on them. And I can see this perspective from both sides, because we were there in 2018. Patrick Mahomes never got a chance to touch the football in overtime. And I still think the overtime rules are broken. I think they should be changed. But you can't get mad at the Chiefs for using the rules to their advantage. That's how football works. Tom Brady's done it for years. And finally last night, the Chiefs had the chance to kind of correct what happened to them in 2018, and they did that. So I think that, sure, the rules could be changed, But the fact that the media is now ready to say that the rules are stupid, it doesn't make sense to me. And it's just another chance to degrade the Chiefs and kind of not give them the full respect for what they did last night. Because what they did last night, I mean, it would have beaten any team on the planet. And I think that Josh Allen played about as good as he possibly could have. But Patrick Mahomes was just that much better. And overtime or not, they were going to win this game. Like, it was just going to happen after what we saw in the final 13 seconds.
Yeah, well, and I'm actually in agreement with you, too. I've never liked the overtime rules. But kind of like you said, also, we're just playing the game by the rules the NFL gives us. We use them to our advantage. But I've always hated the rules since the infamous Larry Fitzgerald versus Aaron Rodgers NFC divisional game where Aaron Rodgers never got to touch the ball in overtime after putting together an incredible comeback. I always hated it since then. And honestly, I don't have an answer to how to fix it. But I'll say this. If the Bills fans are so upset, well, you should have stopped Mahomes in the 13 seconds that were left in the game.
Exactly. Like, at the end of the day, your number one scoring defense that we already said was not as good as the numbers shown, because even before the 13 seconds, the Chiefs had no problems moving the ball against their defense. Buffalo punted 2 more times than we did. So their offense had more of a problem against our defense, which we're going to talk about because they completely fell apart in the final minutes of this game. But the Chiefs had more success against the best defense in the league than the Bills did against our defense. And I think that 13 seconds left should be more of an ample opportunity for the Bills to get a stop. Like, all they needed to do was just drain the clock. There was 13 seconds left. At the end of the day, you could say that the overtime was unfair, but Josh Allen gave you a 3-point lead with 13 seconds left to go. And at the end of the day, Patrick Mahomes, the Grim Reaper, just came back to take your soul. Like, that's just what happened. And Buffalo fans are going to be salty and going to be mad. The better team won last night, and it was because they exploited the defense that was supposedly the best. And all it took was 2 plays, and in overtime, it wasn't even really a debate. Like, they were going to find a way to score, and they did it pretty quickly.
Yeah, and, I kind of don't disagree with Sean McDermott kicking the ball through the back of the end zone because people have to remember, before Harrison Butker kicked that field goal, the Chiefs still had like 3 seconds to spare. Kicking it through the back of the end zone and squibbing it maybe gives you a few seconds different, which I don't think actually changes much because then the Chiefs probably would have gotten the ball at a better spot anyway, and that kind of offsets that. And also someone said this, I'm not sure if it's totally true, I haven't confirmed it, but I think Tyreek Hill was also back on returns, which made the Buffalo Bills scared to actually kick it to him. But, people can debate about that all day. I think where the Bills really went wrong is playing prevent defense and giving the Chiefs the cheap yards they needed to get in field goal range. I think that was their biggest mistake because I think the Chiefs were prepared for Harrison Butker to kick it at 60-plus yards, and they got much closer than that.
Oh, yeah. Like, they went from, the Chiefs might have to kick a 60-yarder to, it's just going to be a 49-yard field goal attempt. Like, Harrison Butker had his problems earlier in the game, but the dude is money when he needs to make a good field goal. Like, we saw it in 2018 in the AFC Championship game to tie it. I mean, he's made some big-time field goals, and I'm not going to lie, I was nervous, but I think that Harrison Butker, for whatever reason, when the game really matters, always finds a way to get it done, and that's exactly what he did last night. But honestly, you mentioned it. Tyreek Hill on punt returns last night was one of the greatest things that I've seen in recent memory. Like, the way that he's just able to catch the ball and make guys miss is a skill in which I don't know if anyone else has. And honestly, I want to talk about this photo because remember the Chiefs got the ball back and they were down and they had like a minute left and they scored a touchdown just like that. And it was a Patrick Mahomes just little dump off pass to Tyreek Hill. I think it was a crossing route. And Tyreek just burned by literally everybody, and he threw up a peace sign to a guy that was in front of him. And it's one of the craziest photos I've ever seen, because could you imagine throwing up the deuces to a guy that is in front of you, and it still didn't matter? Like, Tyreek Hill is ridiculous, and honestly, it took all three of your great players to be great last night. I mean, Travis Kelce, we're not talking about him, but he had that big-time catch where Mahomes said, do it, because Kelce told him that the coverage was really favoring him towards the middle of the field where they were trying to get him to the sideline. So he was able to catch that ball and get well into field goal range, and it really set the Chiefs up to go into overtime. And obviously, what happened in overtime, he caught that toe tap touchdown in the back of the end zone. That's just typical Travis Kelce. That's just what he does. But I think we saw all three of the best players that honestly I've seen in a long time be the absolute best you could possibly be, and that's why they won this game. Like, at the end of the day, you had three guys playing at an elite level, and Buffalo just couldn't stop it.
Yeah, man. I mean, all I can say is appreciate the big three because they're not going to be here forever, and they're already the greatest offensive trio in NFL history. Like, they just are. It's not premature to say. The big three went off last night, and that's pretty much the reason the Chiefs won this game. And, of course, you're going to have people that say Mahomes is only good because of his weapons, and then the weapons are only good because Mahomes is their quarterback.
They're
I don't
just
really
excuses at this
think.
point. It's just...
Yeah, I don't really care what people think. I'm just happy they're all on my team.
Yeah, because they were the biggest difference makers in last night's game. Like, the Buffalo Bills had two all-pro safeties in Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde, and it didn't matter. They decided to go single-man coverage in arguably the most important spot of the game, and the Chiefs' weapons were just better. And I don't really understand what the thought process was of going to that kind of defense when all you needed was to kind of play prevent defense and not let them get massive chunks of yards. But at the end of the day, like, the Chiefs just saw three of the greatest offensive pieces do what they do best, and that's exploit even the best defenses. Like, I don't know what your thoughts were, but I had the opinion that last night when there was 13 seconds left, you knew the ball was going to go to one of those two guys, and Buffalo still couldn't stop it. They let Tyreek have that under route, and he still got like 20 yards on the play. And then Travis Kelce, again, we're probably reiterating ourselves a lot, but Travis Kelce just took the team and got him on his back and really took this team to the promised land.
Yeah, you couldn't really have said it better. Like you said, we're just kind of creating an echo chamber now of Kelce.
It's fun,
Hill,
though.
Mahomes.
It's so much fun.
It is. But yeah, no, that's really all that needs to be said. I mean, those guys are the reason, and it just feels good.
So really quickly, before we talk about the offense for the next 20 minutes, because that's just what we're going to do, because that's why you won this game, I want to shift to the defense, because we kind of talked about some of the defensive miscues. You know, you had Mike Hughes falling down, which resulted in a touchdown for the Bills. You had a miscommunication, which led Snead into banging into Mike Hughes. They both, I think, fell down, and it's just... it's something you didn't really expect to see, but I think that a lot of the miscues could be blamed on Tyrann Mathieu leaving this game in the first quarter with a concussion. And I don't know where you fall on that, but I think Tyrann will probably play next week against the Bengals. But him not being on the field in this game was got to be crucial.
Oh, yeah. I mean, him not being there, because like I said, he's the captain of the secondary, and he kind of tells guys where to be. And when he sees a matchup he doesn't like, you know, he makes adjustments, like, out on the field in real time. And, you know, I think he'll play in this next game because Andy Reid this morning kind of made it sound like it's a mild concussion. I'd be surprised if he doesn't play. And they're going to need him to because this is a tough matchup against an explosive Bengals offense. And Jamar Chase is probably the number one guy that really gave them nightmares this past season. And they're going to need Tyrann to be a part of the defensive game plan if they want to truly limit him. And also the next biggest piece is Rashad Fenton. Like I said last night, I really hope that dude has ice on his back right now because you need Rashad Fenton because I am so damn tired of seeing Mike Hughes play for this team.
Mike Hughes just got exposed after getting exposed last night. And it was because you had no other options because Rashad Fenton is out. You need Rashad Fenton in this next game. You need Tyrann Mathieu. And honestly, I think that last night a lot of people were saying, oh, the Chiefs defense folded on 4th and 13. That was when Mike Hughes fell down and it gave the Bills a touchdown and all that great stuff. but I would argue that the Chiefs defense did enough early on in the game to give the offense some wiggle room. Now, obviously, if the Chiefs offense didn't go down the field and score to tie the game, you would have lost, but they did make the Buffalo Bills punt 4 times, and you only had to punt twice. And you had guys like Melvin Ingram, who is the most valuable player that you've ever traded for with a 6th-round draft pick. You got him. He had a sack in last night's game. Jaron Reed had a sack in last night's game. You were able to force some pressure, and it wasn't all from Chris Jones, and we're probably going to talk about Frank Clark not having the impact that really anyone thought, which, surprise, but I thought they did an okay job of forcing pressure. They just couldn't finish with sacks, and it was really hard to go up against Josh Allen because he's slippery. He's just like Mahomes. He's going to find a way to get out of the pocket. He's going to find a way to make plays with his feet. And last night you saw in that 2-point conversion that he converted to Stephon Diggs, his ability to get outside the pocket and just fling it to the corner of the end zone, it was almost Patrick Mahomes-esque. It really was.
Yeah, it wasn't a great game defensively. Just the secondary depth took a hit. The secondary depth got exposed. And like I said, I think last night was a sign that the Chiefs need to spend big on cornerback this offseason and probably re-sign Tyrann Mathieu if they can, if he's not too expensive, because they need all the guys that they can get. I think it's one of the true weaknesses this team still has. I thought the linebackers played actually pretty well, and the pass rush was pretty quiet for most of the night, but came on late in the game. But, Michael, we didn't talk about this last night, and I didn't realize it till after, and it's actually kind of making me pretty upset. I learned that on the last 2 defensive drives, Willie Gay and Nick Bolton did not see the field entirely for the last 2 drives of the game, and I said last night, too, that I was ready to fire Spags after the game, and that was before learning this information.
Yikes.
I'm sorry. At that point in the game, and Josh Allen is running the ball, and you know it's going to be designed runs for the Bills with Josh Allen, not having your 2 best linebackers on the field, that's criminal, dude. You cannot take them off the field, especially on 3rd downs like they do. It's inexcusable. I know the linebackers weren't really the biggest issue on those last 2 drives. It was more so the secondary, but still, that's bad. That's a bad look on Spags.
I don't know how you can take Nick Bolton off the football field when we saw his impact last night in getting to Josh Allen and the tackles for loss on the running backs. He's such a valuable piece of this team in just his rookie season. And Willie Gay's athleticism, how can you take that guy off the field? Like, we need his athleticism. We need his talent. And the fact that they weren't in on some of the biggest downs, that's a fireable offense. I hate to say it, but that is a fireable offense. And honestly, I want to talk about the one play that, kind of got away from the Chiefs. Juan Thornhill got burned over the top for a long touchdown bomb to Gabriel Davis. That's inexcusable, but at the same time, I just think that they really weren't expecting that to happen. And I think, we talked about the corner depth and the corner need. I think safety is almost a bigger need because Dan Sorensen was kind of thrusted into the spotlight again last night because of Tyrann Mathieu's injury. And I thought Armani Watts, who played about 33% of the snaps, looked really, really good. And I wish he would have been out there more because Dan Sorensen, I believe, played 93% of the snaps. It's unfortunate that an injury like that can really kind of change the way that this game went. But I don't really know if the game would have been closer or maybe the Chiefs would have won this game more handily if Tyrann was out there. I'm not really too sure about that. But I will say that I think he is going to be back next week, and it's going to be pretty important. So we've talked about the defense and kind of how they folded, but they were able to make up for it in some spots. They weren't great, but they were good enough. But let's kind of talk about the offense again. We're going to talk about the guys that obviously won you the game. We've done this for the past 30 minutes. But let's talk about some of the complementary weapons, because I thought guys like Jerick McKinnon looked fantastic. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, the guy that we obviously love, he did a really good job of running the rock last night. And Mecole Hardman made the most of his opportunity. He had like a jet sweep touchdown. And I think that Byron Pringle, he caught that touchdown pass from Mahomes where he somehow got his way around the pocket and just threw it on the run. And Byron Pringle caught it in the end zone, made a really good catch on that ball. But we've been talking about this for the longest time. The Chiefs were going to have to see guys not named Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill step up in this game. And I saw this stat on Twitter. Byron Pringle has more postseason touchdowns than Sammy Watkins, playing fewer games. And Byron Pringle has been a big reason why you've been so successful in the red zone, and I think he's played exceptionally well this year. And you're seeing guys, at least as of late, step up. Like the impact that Jerick McKinnon has made is invaluable. And I think Clyde's starting to pull his own weight, and you're getting guys like Demarcus Robinson and Mecole Hardman stepping up too. It's just, you're seeing why this offense is so deadly because everyone is getting involved.
Yeah, all the secondary and tertiary, I forget if that's even how you say it. I haven't used that word since like 6th grade. But anyway, they played great. They all did. Jerick McKinnon, as you mentioned, especially on that screenplay in overtime, that was one of the biggest plays of that game. That's probably going to go untalked about, that Jerick McKinnon screen to get it into Buffalo Bills territory. Clyde from the depths of hell coming to have a productive game. Byron Pringle, someone that I expected to perform in the wide receiver 2 role ever since that Steelers game where Kelsey was out. I said, you know what? That game proved it to me. That's Mahomes' guy, and he's going to be wide receiver 2. He's going to be expected to perform in that role. And then Mecole Hardman, I know people kind of take the term gadget guy as offensive, but that's kind of what Mecole Hardman is, and it's not a slight. He's really good at being a gadget player, and before there was a time earlier this year that they couldn't even make Mecole a gadget player because he couldn't hold on to the dang football. But he's matured, and he hasn't turned the ball over, and last night he was instrumental. He had the touchdown run, and then he had the other run in overtime that got it all the way down to about the 10-yard line before Mahomes found Kelsey in the back of the end zone. Amazing night for all those guys that I just mentioned.
Oh, yeah, and honestly, Mecole Hardman being named a gadget guy, I don't think that's offensive in any way possible because it's just playing to his strengths, and that's when the Chiefs are playing at their best on both offense and defense. It's when you put guys in the right position to be successful. That's kind of been my mantra all year long. The Chiefs have given Mecole Hardman a chance to succeed by giving him the ball when he's in space. And when Mecole Hardman is alone in space with blocking in front of him, he's a tough guy to tackle. He's a tough guy to catch up to. And it seems like he's hitting his stride at the perfect time. But honestly, we kind of just brushed over it. I might have done a pretty poor job of explaining it. But that Patrick Mahomes rollout to find Byron Pringle, we kind of ignore how unbelievable that pass was. Like the fact that he was able to turn around in the pocket, ranged, I think he went all the way around, almost got sacked, but threw it up at a last-second heave to Byron Pringle, who caught it, and it just looked easy. Like, that's the kind of stuff that only the great quarterbacks can do. And it took the over-my-dead-body game from Patrick Mahomes to win last night, which we preached all week long. This was going to be a game in which Patrick Mahomes just did not allow this Chiefs team to lose, and that's exactly what we saw in this game. Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, and Tyreek Hill banded together, and they kind of came to the agreement, whether it was spoken or not, we got this game. We are going to do whatever is necessary to win this game. And obviously we give most of the credit to Patrick Mahomes for kind of for being instrumental in all of it. But I think Travis Kelce's big-time catch and Tyreek Hill's speed, it's a lethal combination in which is probably the best we've ever seen.
Yeah, it absolutely is. That game last night, we said that whoever comes out of that game, I think it's the AFC favorites and probably even the Super Bowl favorites. And, I still feel that way. And I truly feel like the Chiefs are far and away the best team still standing. They have far and away the best quarterback left in the playoffs. There's no reason they shouldn't take this thing. I like their chances against the Bengals. I like their chances against whoever comes out of the NFC.
I do too.
And this past weekend really felt like passing of the torch from kind of the old school guys like Brady and Rodgers to the new young hot quarterbacks like Mahomes and Burrow and Allen. And it was a fun weekend, and Patrick Mahomes is amazing. That's all that needs to be said.
That's all you really can say. But I'll say this really quickly. I think the Kansas City Chiefs are head and shoulders better than everybody else. And after that kind of win, where the Chiefs were able to somehow miraculously find a way to win this game when quite literally they were dead, but they had just barely a pulse, and they were able to take that pulse and revive themselves, I think that's the kind of win, kind of like the Texans last year in the divisional round, not the last year, in 2019. That was a game that after you won, you knew you were going to go all the way. This felt like that kind of game. I think the Buffalo Bills and the Kansas City Chiefs were probably the two best teams in the playoffs, and whoever won that game was definitely going to represent the AFC in the Super Bowl. But I would argue that, well, I'm not going to get too ahead of ourselves, but I would argue that those two teams were the best, and whoever won that game would be in the driver's seat to win the Super Bowl. And I think the Chiefs winning this game, no matter how it happened, it's one of the biggest wins we've ever seen.
Yeah. Chiefs fans, you guys have Patrick Mahomes. That's all that needs to be said. And for that reason, I'm confident that this Chiefs team can win a Super Bowl.
I am too. It's all coming together. The stars are aligning, and I've been on this train from the very beginning. You don't bet against Patrick Mahomes. He's lost 2 playoff games to the greatest quarterback who has ever played this game. He doesn't lose to guys like Josh Allen, at least not right now. And Josh Allen played great, but we saw how much Mahomes wanted to win this game, and that's ultimately what they did. So, Josh, we've talked about this game probably much longer than we should have. Just awing over Mahomes, awing over Kelsey, awing over Hill. Do you have any final concluding thoughts about this game? And I'm probably going to actually be talking about this with Blake Schneiders tomorrow. So we are going to talk about this game even more, but I think that, Josh, we did a really good job of kind of breaking down everything that we saw.
Yeah, no, I think we covered pretty much the hell out of this game.
Yeah.
So on to the Bengals.
On to Cincinnati, as Bill Belichick would say. On to Cincinnati.
Yep.
I might actually put that clip on my Instagram. We'll see. If you guys see that on Instagram, that's where this thought came from. So, Josh, where can the people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at ShowMeFB, or you can follow my personal at JoshFan43. And then you can also find me on YouTube, simply my name, Josh Fan.
Guys, go follow him on those social platforms. As for me, you can follow me on Instagram. That is KC_Sports Report. Twitter is at KC Sports Report. Go check out the website. That is KCSportsReport.com. Obviously, subscribe to Josh's YouTube channel, Josh Fan. Subscribe to KC Sports Report. Hit the like button on your way out. And we'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.